Hi everybody, it's John back again with another model inbox review. Today we're looking at the 176 scale Airfix Cromwell Mark IV. We'll go straight into the boxing history. It's just a nice image there of a Cromwell. Actually, the photograph was taken, I think, during the war, of a Cromwell tank. I think that's a Mark IV. And we'll have a look at the boxing history that Airfix came up with. The kit originally was a Hornby release in 2011 in the Hornby release boxings, and the image on the box was this particular image. This is actually the model I've got, but I've got the starter kit, which I'll show you in a minute. One of the interesting things that I found about this particular kit when I got a hold of it is that you can build both versions of the Mark IV. You can build the one that doesn't have the raking stuff at the front of the tank, but it does have like a build pillar section at the back of the tank, and I'm not quite sure what it's called, but I can probably find out. And you can build either or. You can build one or the other, which is quite nice, you know. And I do think the starter kit actually is of the top image here. Can you see the top image here on this tank? The starter kit is of this tank, and you can build either or with or without either of these two options. It's really up to you what you want to do and how you want to build the tank. But you know, all the options are there, the parts are there to build all of that stuff on the Cromwell, which is nice. In 2011, they also released the starter kit, and this is actually the kit that I've got. I got the starter set along with a few other starter sets that I purchased as a purchased bulk load. Around about 6 models, I think, from a company called Bargain World up here in the northeast of England. They're probably down in the south as well. And I think I paid $3.99, or I think it was $3.99 or $3.49 each for these. I can't remember exactly, but they were different models. One of them was the Mary Rose, which I've already built and done a final reveal on. But this is the Airfix kit that I'm doing the inbox review on. But I actually chopped all these bits off, and the paints have been chucked away, and the glue and the brushes have been stored somewhere. I'll use them at a later date. But in 2011 they released the non-starter set kit boxing and the starter set. I think the starter set was released a couple of months after the original kit was released. And then in 2012 they also did this adversary set, which I think was quite interesting, of a Tiger II and the Cromwell tank. As an adversary set, and I quite like the idea of this set. I've actually got the King Tiger in a separate boxing style, but this is, you know, the classic conflict adversary set. I think is quite a nice idea. Not sure if you get the building in the background, but I wouldn't have thought so. I think you just get the two different tanks, which is nice. But that's the boxing history for the Airfix kits. I also want to take you very quickly through the options and costs. There aren't that many, but they're quite interesting, and there are a few things probably that you need to be informed about before making a decision to purchase a Cromwell tank in any of the scales. The first company I want to talk about is Plastic Soldier. Now, Plastic Soldier sell a range of vehicles and figures and tanks in 3 various different scales. They do what's called a 15mm miniature scale, which I believe is 1/120th scale, although it's sometimes advertised as 1/100th scale. But I think you'll find that most of the model medias and diorama media websites actually state that 15mm is 1/120th scale. And they do this particular kit offering in 15mm miniature scale, and it contains 5 tanks, all British Cromwell tanks. And the thing that's interesting is you can also get this as an individual sprue for single tanks. So if you only want 1 or 2 tanks, or if you want 6 tanks for a diorama, you can buy the 5 kit pack and then buy an individual sprue. And the sprue is separate, and I'll give you a pricing for that when we get through to the options and costs and everything in the gump that I'll read off. But that's basically Plastic Soldier's option of the Cromwell tank. It's a Cromwell Mark IV, but be careful because they also build a Cromwell Mark VI in these scales as well. And they also build them in 1/72 scale, which you'll see later. So that's plastic soldier. Then you go to 1/76. You've also got the options for the Airfix and the Airfix adversary set. And then in 72nd scale, you have this company who build a Cromwell Mark IV, Ace Corporation. Now, I have spoken about Ace Corporation on a video before, on a model overview, and Ace Corporation basically just rebox Revell kits. And this is actually the Revell boxing of the Cromwell Mark IV, but it's sold in the Ace Corporation boxing. So that's one option there in 72nd. You've also got an option from a company called Armourfast. And Armourfast build a set of very quick builds. I believe the tracks and bogie assemblies are all one piece, and you just glue them all together, and they're very, very quick and easy to build, these kits. And they come in twin tank pack kits, so you get 2 tanks in each box. That's quite nice as well. That's 72nd scale from Armourfast. They do lots of other tanks as well, but they do the Cromwell in this range. And then you've got Plastic Soldier who do the 72nd scale range, but with the Plastic Soldier offerings, you get 3 tanks in the same box. I don't think they're horrendously difficult to build. I think they're quite easy and very simply constructed models, and they're really for the diorama and wargaming fraternity. So that's 72nd scale from Plastic Soldier, and also, of course, you've got the Cromwell Mark IV from Revell, which features this massive grating thing at the front as well, which is also an option on the Airfix kit, and we'll look at that in a minute. 72nd scale goes to 1/56, and Italeri do the Cromwell Mark IV in 1/56 scale, an unusual scale for any company to produce a tank in. Italeri do 2 different ranges that are bolt-on sort of options with this particular kit. They do a World of Tanks commemorative boxing for World of Tanks, and they also do what's called a Warlord miniature set, and they do several different camo patterns in the Warlord miniature boxings, but they're all the same sprue, 1/56 scale, all based on this particular kit. And this is the starter set offering that you get with this as well, where you get some paints and a brush, which is quite nice too. 1/48, you've got the Tamiya offering, the Cromwell Mark IV. I do believe this particular kit is really, really nice, and 48 scale in military vehicles is actually a scale that's cropped up over the last 3 or 4 years, and they're a smaller option than 35th. They tend to be slightly cheaper, although not an awful lot cheaper, as you'll see in the costings. But if you want, if space is a premium, then 48th is obviously a better option for you than 35th. And the 48 scale kits are actually quite detailed and they're quite accurate, and Tamiya is no exception. A very, very nice kit in this respect. 35th scale, you've got a company called Accurate Armour. You have to be careful with this. They do a Cromwell Mark 7 and 8, but they also do a Mark 4, and I can't find an image of the Mark 4, but it is in this format of boxing. The kit comprises injection moulded, and I think there's a bit of PE, but it is extensively resin, and you'll find that a lot of the parts in this kit that build up the majority of the body shell is resin parts. So again, it's not an easy kit to build, but that's Accurate Armour. You've also got an offering from a company called SKP, and again, I think this is a resin kit, so you'll have to be careful, when you're purchasing this. It's of the Mark IV-F as well, which had extra panniers on the turret, and a few extra add-ons here and there on the tank. But that's the SKP model offering. And then, of course, you've got the Revell offering in 35th scale. And this is probably the benchmark kit for all 35th scale Cromwell, or all, Tamiya tend to be the benchmark for all 35th scale armour and military vehicles. And this kit, I've seen a few reviews on this kit from professional modelers and IPMS builders and they really, really like the Cromwell Mark IV that Tamiya build. So that's the options and costs. We'll leave you with a nice image there of the Cromwell. I think this is on a brick plinth, which is quite nice. And what I want to do is just pan the camera down to the table, and with a bit of luck, we can see what is actually on offer here. There we go. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, 2 seconds, the picture's a bit blurry, and I'm just going to pop the light on to give a bit more of an image here. And then I've got to do something to get rid of this damn shadow, because the shadow is coming off here on the light, which is a bit of a shame. There's not an awful lot I can do about that, but that looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Right, this is the boxing we've got on offer here. It's actually the starter set, but what I've done is I've cut the starter sets off, and when you do this, it's a bit of a problem really, because when you do this, you cut off the option that's available in the model. There's two options in this kit, but obviously there's only one showing on this particular kit, which is a shame, but there are two options available. We'll go into that in a minute. I'll just take the bits out the box. I think that's everything. I'll just show you the image there. What we'll do, I'll just take the instruction leaflet out, put that down there, and we'll have a look at the instruction leaflet first. The instruction leaflet, it's not typical Airfix from Hornby releases. In actual fact, the instruction leaflet looks like a second, which might be one of the reasons why the kit ended up in Bargain World as opposed to a general sale in a model shop, because the instruction leaflet looks very, very photocopy-ish, and there's even assembly instructions written in reverse there, which I think, yeah, this looks like a second to me. It doesn't look like an official kit, which is a shame. Sorry about the shadow on the instruction leaflet, but I'll try and bring the images into view in the in the light. On the front of the instruction leaflet, you've got 5 different languages. I think that's British, French, German, Spanish, and I think that's not quite sure where that might. I think it's Swedish. Yeah, Stridsvagnen. That's definitely Swedish for tank, isn't it? So that's quite nice. Got lots of options for the gun on the tank, and the stats and history, and a little bit here and there. And then you've got basic assembly instructions. This is in a lot of different languages, some of which I don't know the country codes for, but as you'll see them there, you'll see which one's yours. But there are actually 12 different languages for the assembly instructions, and at the bottom here you've got an icon, assembly icon instructions, and these just explain what the codes mean for all the different flags that appear on the kit's plans. The model itself builds up in 22 steps, which is not unusual for a Hornby production release of an Airfix kit. They like to string out the build of the kit in lots and lots of different steps. But there is one thing on this particular build's construction method which I'm going to bring to your attention. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but guessing at what's going on, I think it could be a good thing. But it's to do with the tracks. We'll get to that in a minute. Section 1 and Section 2 is basically the build of the body chassis, the chassis and the undercart of the vehicle, with all the chassis members there and the pins that adhere for the road wheels in Section 1 and 2. You just put all those together. And in Section 3 you've got the road wheels and the tracks assembly, and this is where things get a little bit interesting, because if it works well, this could be the future of track assembly for a lot of different companies. I think it would be a good idea for them to copy this idea, because this could be heaven for a lot of builders. Let's just fold the instruction leaflet over a little bit so I can lay this open for you so you can see exactly what I mean. Now, I've built lots of armour kits over the years, and I've never built an armour kit with this method of track construction. But basically what you're doing, I always paint my road wheels and idler sprockets and drive sprockets all before I put them onto the tank, and I also paint this section here before I put anything together, so that you don't have to worry about how to get your brush in between all the wheels and all that garbage. But here they're telling you to paint the wheels and the tyres on the wheels before you assemble them to the tank, which is a good idea, really good. But then they're telling you to fit the inner wheels, and then you lay the tracks into the inner wheels in the correct position, and then you locate the outer wheels and drive sprockets like the other half and fit them around the track itself, and then you have to bed them into the teeth of the track. Now, if this works, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't, because basically the only wheels on this tank that have drive sprocket teeth are the drive sprockets. None of the other wheels have, so you've only got to locate them around the drive sprockets, and then the rest of it is just smooth wheels, which is great. So you shouldn't really have an issue with this. But this enables you to paint the track, and this is what I really like. This is, I can get, I look at this and I think, God, this could be the future of track construction for armoured vehicles in any scale, because what you can do is you can paint the track entirely inside and out, and not use any glue to adhere it to the tank in any way, shape or form, because you use the outer road wheels and the drive sprocket and idler sprocket to hold the track in place. And hey presto, it's located and fixed, and I think it would work really well. They're telling you to paint the track gunmetal, which is probably an option for me. A lot of the tracks on the pictures I've got they are gunmetal, or at least a dark, very dark sea steel grey. But I think gunmetal would probably work quite well. And then you affix the tracks in section 4 to the other side. I think that could work really well. If it does, it would be great. In section 5, you're building the top of the body shell and the forward section of the machine gun and driver's hatch there into the tank. And then you're fitting the body shell onto the top of the chassis units itself there, and the locating pins all looks quite easy and open. There's no issue with interpreting what you have to do. Section 6 and 7 are just rear end fittings, and section 8 are front end fittings with your lights, and there's a few hooks there going on, and yeah, nice. And then section 9, you've got some more panniers and covers that go onto the tank's body shell at the back. And section 10, there are 4 parts there. I'm not quite sure what they're actually called, what they're for, or there might be something to do with I think they're protectors for the lights. Actually, that's what they are. They're just light armoured protectors for the lights. And the picture I've got here in front of me of the Cromwell, they definitely have them fitted, so that's nice. Although these on the model, I think, are actually round the wrong way, because according to, I don't know. I think they look about right. They look pretty accurate. Section 11, you've got more panniers that go on the other side of the tank's body shell, which are there. And then section 12, you've got the rear mud flaps and the grate cover. And section 13, you're building the finishing touches to the body shell. And then you've got the option parts here, and I'm not quite sure what this is. Is it a cable cutter? Is it a fitment attachment or something? I'm not quite sure what it is. Is it something to do with helping the tank traverse trenches and, issues with bad terrain or what? I'm not sure, but you have the option of either fitting them or not fitting them, which is great. Having the option is always better than not. And then section 14 through to 20 is really to do with building the turret. And again, there's a nice feature on here as well. Section 14, you put in a couple of bits there. I think that's a machine gun unit. And then you've got section 14, which is fixing the gun housing. Yeah, that's interesting. No, actually, not part 5A, I think, is the gun mount. Yeah, and that has to traverse. So they're showing you it has to traverse, and they're making sure that you don't glue that into position so that it does traverse. And then section 16, you're building the upper turret and the turret ring, putting that together, and then the gun mantlet goes in section 17 with the main 76mm. I think it was a 76mm gun on the Cromwell. And another nice touch on this kit is the fact that the gun actually has a muzzle brake there, which is in 2 halves, which means that your gun is going to be hollow at the end, so there's no boring out or any issues with that. That's great. And then you've got the applique armour that goes onto the side of the turret, which the Cromwell was famous for. The armour actually bolted to the outside of the turret, so if the armour got damaged, they just unbolted it and bolted a new piece on. Very, very quick and cheap and easy to replace turret armour that's damaged. Section 19 there, you've got the cupola, and you've got options there to have the cupola doors open or closed, which is a nice touch. And then you've got some extra fittings and a light unit that goes on the side of the turret in section 20. And then in section 21, you've got a couple of features here which are options. You can either fit these or you can omit them, it doesn't really matter, but you've got this back pannier, which is, I'm not quite sure what it is. Is it a deflector for bullets, or is it a deflector for shells, or is it a pannier for carrying equipment? I don't know. It fits on the back. It's quite a large sponson that goes on the back of the tank. If anybody knows what that thing is, please put it in the comments, because I think for people who don't know what it is, I think it would be interesting to know. And you've also got a cover there, part 159, 27A, sorry, which I think is a cover for the what would normally be the observer's hatch or the machine gunner's hatch, but of course this gun has a mounted machine gun on the actual gun mount, which is great. And then you've got the finished view of what the tank looks like. And this is another nice touch that I think Airfix do quite well. They show you what your finished product should look like, which is great. There's no issues, you know, about interpreting things wrong, or because it's there, you can see it all. It's great. Now then, just have a quick look at the decals, because the decals on this kit are quite nice. There aren't very many, but as you can see, they're quite nicely crafted. Not sure who makes them. Sorry, I've got it upside down there. Not sure if they're a Cartograph sheet, but they're very good quality. It wouldn't surprise me if Cartograph built this. Very, very good quality. The decals themselves, they're not very raised. The backing film is crystal clear. And the white registration numbers there, they're quite easily readable. I think, you know, if you had them on the tank with a green background, you'd probably be able to see what was written on there quite easily. So the decals, yeah, quite pleased with them. They look quite good. Let's pop them inside the instruction sheet, inside this kit, because I don't want to lose them. And then we get to the parts, and the parts, yeah, I'm not going to go pedantic on the parts. I'm just going to give you some images of the parts and what they look like. We'll have a look at that one in a minute. I'm going to show you some of this detail, because the detail and the texture on the parts is actually really, really nice. I like what Airfix have done with this. Got the underside of the chassis there. I'm hoping that's going to come, yeah it is, it's coming into view. The detail on the underside of that tank, often missed and omitted by other companies. It's really nice. You know, I think this kit is going to be on a par with the Revell kit. I've built the Revell kit, and the Revell kit's very nice. And this could even be slightly better. The quality and the crafting on the parts is really, really tasty. I like what they've done. They've got the texture on the actual turret top there, really, really good. The gun mantlet looks pretty good. It all looks pretty good, doesn't it? And the actual the casting of the parts is crystal clear. There's no flash on these parts, and I'm not expecting there to be, because these kits have only been on the market a few years. They haven't been out for very long, you know. They're quite new moulds. You've got the body shell of the tank here, and I'm hoping that's going to come into view very nicely, which it is. Yeah, the texture and the detail, surface detail, that body shell is really, really nice. Very pleased with that. There's the armour, the applique armour that goes on the side. That's quite nice too. And the wheels, I'm just going to show you the wheels quickly, because there is a little bit of detail on the wheels, which you can see there. That's quite nice too. You've got a few bolts, wheel nuts going on there, holding the wheels in place. And the method of holding the tracks and the wheels in place is to just glue them to the mounts. The drive sprockets, they're really nicely moulded as well. Very, very nice indeed. I like the detail on this kit. It looks really good, doesn't it? And then you've got the tracks. Now, as I said, I've built quite a few armour kits, but I've never had a track set like this. I remember building a Trumpeter IS-2, and that kit had the tracks in two different options. You could have either vulcanized rubber tracks, or you can have the tracks with the wheels all built in, and you just painted them up and then stuck them to the side of the tank. But Airfix seem to have gone one better, because they've built a one-piece track which is rigid. It's a rigid piece of plastic, just like all the rest of the plastic parts on this sprue, but it's got this ridge line on the inside of the track, and that means you can locate the track in absolutely the correct position by locating them onto the inner wheels, and then glue the outer wheels to the inner wheels, and it should hold the track in place. And I think that could work really, really well. It'd be interesting. You know, the jury's going to be out obviously until we get the results and see how it goes. But I'm expecting that to work really well and very, very efficiently. Right, so that's the parts looked at. The parts are quite nice. I like the detail and the fineness. The mouldings, you know, I think Airfix have done a good job on the parts. I'm quite impressed with how that looks. What I want to quickly do now is I want to quickly just go through the gumph to close this video down. And there are, as I said, there are some bits of information here which I think might be quite interesting to you. Right, the model we're doing an in-box review on today is the Airfix Cromwell Mark IV tank. Its release date is 2011 and it's moulded in 1/76 scale, and the kit has a serial number of 055109. There are decals for two versions. One from the 5th Royal Horse Artillery, 7th Armoured Division, British Army, Western Front 1944, and the other one I can't see what it is because I've chopped the top off rather stupidly, but there are two different versions. I think they're both from Western Front. They're both from around about D-Day to the end of the war. But I've got a feeling the other one is the 5th Armoured Division, but don't quote me, I can't remember exactly. The tank's dimensions are roughly 3.25 inches long by 1.5 inches wide by 1.25 inches high. The kit comprises 91 parts on 2 grey plastic sprues, and the options and costs are as follows. In 1/120th scale, you can get the Plastic Soldier Model Company's Cromwell Mark IV, and it comes in two options. You can get an individual kit sprue, which just comprises one model, and that retails for around about £4 to £6, and you can get the 5 units per box moulding offered, which is £20 to £25. In 1/76, you obviously have the Airfix Cromwell Mark IV, which goes for about £10 to £12, although I think on the Airfix site at the moment it's about £9.95. And you also get the Airfix King Tiger and Cromwell Adversary set, and I've seen that going on sale on eBay at the moment for around about £16 to £20. Although if you do hold out for your prices, I've seen some of them sell for as little as 10. In 1/72nd scale, you've got Ace Corporation's Cromwell Mark IV, which is just the Revell model reboxed. That retails usually for about £10. The Armour Fast Cromwell Mark IV, which has 2 tanks in the box, retails for about £10 to £12. The Plastic Soldier Cromwell Mark IV, which has 3 tanks in the box, is £17 to £20, and the Revell Cromwell Mark IV is about £10 to £15. Artalieri do a 1/56 scale Cromwell Mark IV, that retails for about £20 to £25. That's quite an expensive offering. And in 1/48 scale, Tamir's Cromwell Mark IV retails for about £20 to £25. In 1/35 scale, Accurate Armour does a resin kit Mark IV Cromwell for about £75 to £85. They're quite dear. SKP Models Cromwell Mark IV contains resin parts, that retails for about £30 to £40, and the pure injection moulded Tamir offering of the Cromwell Mark IV goes for about £25 to £30. Now, conclusions. The kit's really nicely detailed and finely moulded parts, possibly yet another gem from Hornby's releases, Airfix kits with only one concern: the track assembly setup. Is this going to work? It looks like it probably would, but if it doesn't work as well as I'm expecting it to, it could be a possible nightmare. I think if the tracks go together well, it could be the future for all companies to consider, as it appears to be the answer to painting the tracks prior to assembly and getting a really, really good result. Now, I have built the Revell kit before, and that's a really nice kit too, but of course it's 1/72nd scale. So looking at the sprues on the Airfix kit and knowing what the Revell kit is like, I don't think there's much of choice between the two. I think the quality of the two kits is actually very good. Revell's armour kits tend to be really good, but it does depend on whether you want a diorama in 72nd or 76 scale. So that's the inbox review for the Cromwell tank. It's quite a short one this time. I'm looking forward to this build. It looks quite good. I'm very excited about the possibilities of this. I think it could come out quite well. So I hope this video has been of use. If there's any questions or comments or any information that you have on the Cromwell tank that might be of interest to some of our subbers, please put them in the comments. And if there's any questions, I'll try and get back to you as quickly as possible. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you for the next video. Bye bye for now.